People think hospitals are places of healing bright lights, busy halls, nurses rushing with charts. But when the clock hits midnight, a hospital becomes something else entirely. Corridors grow colder, lights flicker for no reason, footsteps echo where no one is walking, and the silence feels alive. My name is Roland, night shift security guard at San Lazaro Memorial Hospital. For 7 years, I've seen things security guards aren't supposed to see, but out of everything I've experienced, nothing compares to the night of room 304. The night I learned that some patients don't wait for sunrise before they check out. Tonight, I'm going to tell you what really happened. Not the report, not the rumors. The truth. It was a Tuesday night, normally slow, except for the ER, where everyone always seemed to be dying at once. At 1:13 a.m., Nurse Era called me through the radio. Greater than Sir Roland, please check room 304. The call button is blinking again. I froze for a moment. Room 34 had been empty for 3 days. Not between patients empty. Dead. Patient empty. Mrs. Alonso, 83. Chronic pneumonia. She passed away on a Sunday morning. No family came. No one claimed her body immediately. That room always felt cold. Ever since I cleared my throat. Copy. On the way. As I walked through the hallway, my footsteps echoed against the tiles. The lights flickered, not unusual, but still irritating at night. When I reached 304, the door was slightly open. I hated that. Room doors were supposed to be fully closed or fully open. A door left ajar always felt like an invitation. I pushed it slowly. The air was freezing. Every hair on my arm stood. The bed was perfectly made. No patient, no chart, no belongings, but the call button on the wall was blinking red. Someone pressed it. Recently, I walked inside. Hello, security, I called out. Anyone here? Silence. But then, the elevator down the hall opened by itself. I looked back. Nobody came out. When I turned again, the call button had stopped blinking. The room felt wrong, like someone was still inside. Watching, I backed away slowly and closed the door. Some nights, I swear, the hospital breathes. I returned to my station and reviewed the CCTV. 4 cameras covered the 3rd floor hallway, elevator, fire exit, and room 304's door. I rewound the footage. Nothing. No one entered room 30. No one pressed the button. But then, at 1:11 a.m., 2 minutes before the nurse called me, something flickered in the hallway camera. A shape. Pale, thin, wearing a hospital gown. The figure moved slowly down the corridor, dragging 1 foot behind it. I zoomed in. My chest tightened. The face was blurry, but the figure had white hair tied back in a bun. Mrs. Alonso, the patient who died in 3. I stopped the footage and leaned back. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe my eyes were tired, but the footage didn't lie. Dead patients don't walk around in hospital gowns. Sir Roland, 304. Again, the lights are on. This time, dread washed over me. I headed back, radio in hand. The 3rd floor felt abandoned, like life itself refused to stay there. When I reached the door, I noticed something new. The bed was no longer made. The blanket was wrinkled. The pillow was dented as if someone had been lying on it. I checked the bathroom. Inside, empty. I scanned the room thoroughly. Still empty, but when I turned around, the blanket moved. Just a tiny shift, like someone adjusting their legs underneath. I froze. Then, it moved again. Slow, painfully slow, like something dead was repositioning itself. A chill crept down my arms. Nope, not today, I whispered, and backed out of the room. But as I walked toward the nurse's station, the intercom crackled. Static. Then breathing. Heavy breathing, followed by a cracked voice. Cold. So cold. I stopped walking. That was her voice. Mrs. Alonso, the woman who died 3 days ago. I could feel her somewhere nearby, listening. At 3:05 a.m., the power flickered again. Half the hallway went dark. I grabbed my flashlight and started checking doors. When I reached the far end, I noticed Nurse Era wasn't at her station. Her pen was still on the desk. For notes. Mid's coffee, still steaming. Impossible. She wouldn't leave her post during rounds, unless she followed something or someone. Era, I called. No answer. Fear pressed against my chest, heavy and cold. I searched each room until I reached the fire exit. The metal door was propped open with a rubber wedge. Hospital staff never do that. I pointed my flashlight down the stairwell. Something moved on the landing below. Not walking, crawling. Long fingers pulling against the concrete. A white hospital gown dragging behind. I gripped the railing. My breath stuck in my throat. The figure slowly lifted its head. Eyes sunken, eye skin sagging, lips blue. Mrs. Alonso. She opened her mouth and screamed. A long, broken, dying scream. I stumbled back and slammed the fire exit shut. I locked it, double-locked it. The screaming continued from the other side. Then, suddenly, silence. I ran back to the hallway, calling for Nurse Era. No answer. The hospital suddenly felt bigger than usual, like the walls were stretching. Every step echoed like someone was following close behind. At 3:33 a.m., the radio crackled. Greater than Sir Roland. It was Era, her voice shaky, weak. Greater than room 30. The rest was drowned by shrill static. I sprinted to room 304 and swung the door open. The lights turned off immediately. Complete darkness. My flashlight flickered violently. In the beam of shaky light, I saw a figure sitting on the bed, back facing me. Thin shoulders, white hair. Mrs. Alonso. I raised my voice, trying to sound brave. Ma'am, you need to lie back down. She didn't respond. I stepped closer. The figure trembled with small, jerky movements. Ma'am. Then, the light flickered again, and the figure vanished, gone. Not slowly disappearing, not dissolving. 1 second, she was there. The next second, nothing. But the bed was still indebted where she sat. The pillow had fresh wrinkles. Then, I heard it. A faint, desperate whimper behind the curtain. Era. I yanked the curtain open. Era was on the floor, trembling, hands over her ears, crying. What happened? I knelt down. She sobbed harder. Then she looked up at me, eyes wide with terror. Greater than, sir, she kept asking me. Why she was still here. Cold crawled up my spine. Greater than, she said. She couldn't leave because she died alone. Era grabbed my arm. Greater than, she wants someone to stay with her forever. We rushed out of the room, but as we reached the hallway, the lights burst, one after another, down the entire corridor. Pop, pop, pop. Darkness swallowed everything. Only the emergency red lights remained. That's when we heard her footsteps, slow, dragging, agonizing, coming toward us. I grabbed Era's wrist. Run. We sprinted through the corridor, but every corner looked wrong. The hospital layout didn't match anymore. Left halls became right halls. Doors moved locations. Stairs led to dead ends. The hospital was twisting itself, like it didn't want us to leave. Footsteps grew louder behind us. Brag, scrape, brag. Closer. We ducked into the supply room and closed the door quietly. Era cried silently, covering her mouth. Then, Knuckles tapped the door, slowly, deliberately. Toke, her voice seeped through the cracks. You left me alone. The lights inside the supply room flickered. My heart hammered so hard, I thought she could hear it. A shadow passed beneath the door, a thin pair of feet, and she whispered, "Stay with me, and I won't be lonely anymore." We didn't move. We didn't breathe. Minutes stretched like hours. Finally, the footsteps faded. We escaped as soon as we could. We ran until we reached the elevator. The doors opened instantly. Instantly. Inside the elevator, the floor indicator was blinking. 3-3. Right. 3. No matter which button I pressed, the elevator wouldn't move. The next day, CCTV footage was reviewed. The part where Mrs. Alonso appeared, corrupted. All black screen. No audio, but the timestamp was correct. The part where the elevator trapped us. Elevator logs confirmed no malfunction. No emergency stop activated. Everything we saw, everything we survived, was invisible to the hospital systems. Nurse Era quit that same morning. I stayed. This is my job, my post. But sometimes when I do rounds on the 3rd floor, I still hear the call button beep in room 3-4. And when I pass by the elevator, I see fingerprints. Old, small, frail fingerprints, smeared on the inside of the doors. Only one thing scares me more than seeing her again. The possibility that one night, when I'm old, alone, weak, I might be the one pressing the call button, begging someone to stay with me.